The atmosphere of the company holiday party was vibrant and festive. Laughter, soft music, and the clinking of champagne glasses filled the air. I was in a tailored suit, blending in with the crowd, but my mind was elsewhere. I'd noticed Olivia's strange behavior lately: long work hours, whispered phone calls, her gaze drifting away when I asked too many questions. I wanted to believe it was nothing, just work stress, but part of me knew something was off. She had always been ambitious, but something had shifted. Earlier in the evening, I overheard her on the phone, her voice low and cautious, not the playful tone she used when she called me. But she didn't know I was listening. She didn't know I was only a few steps away, hidden in the shadows by the grand staircase. Her words confirmed what I had suspected for months. The affair wasn't with some random fling, it was with her boss, the one who'd given her all those promotions and extra projects. I stood by the bar now, sipping my drink, watching her. She was laughing with her colleagues, looking beautiful in her fitted dress, every inch the perfect corporate wife. But her laughter sounded fake to me now, hollow. I had seen through the facade. And tonight I would expose it all, not just her betrayal, but the consequences she never saw coming. She thought she had everything figured out. She thought I was oblivious, the loyal husband who would never suspect. But I had been preparing for this moment. My law background had made me meticulous, methodical. Every financial detail, every asset, every shared account, I had locked it down. When this party was over, so was her life as she knew it. I finished my drink, set it down on the bar, and walked toward her. This was going to be a night she'd never forget. As I crossed the room, weaving through the crowd of her co-workers and executives, I could feel my heart pounding, but my mind remained calm. I had been preparing for this moment for weeks, maybe even months. Olivia glanced over at me, her lips parting into a smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. She had become a master of deception, but tonight her mask would slip. "Hey, Jonathan." She greeted me cheerily, the picture-perfect wife in public. Her hand lightly grazed my arm as if we were still the same happy couple everyone thought we were. She didn't know I was about to dismantle the illusion she had so carefully constructed. So I leaned in close, my voice low so that only she could hear. "We need to talk," I said, smiling for the benefit of those around us, but my words were laced with cold steel. Her smile faltered just slightly, enough for me to notice. She nodded, trying to maintain her composure, and led me away from the main event, through a side hallway lined with sleek office doors. The noise of the party faded as we stepped into the secluded corridor. It was just the two of us now, the calm before the storm. "Jonathan, what's this about?" she asked, her tone firm, but I could hear the nervousness creeping into her voice. She was no fool, she knew something was coming. I'd been too quiet for too long, and that had probably worried her more than if I'd yelled or confronted her weeks ago. I didn't answer immediately. I wanted her to feel the weight of the silence, to understand that whatever she thought she was controlling, she had already lost. Finally, I spoke, my words measured, deliberate. "I know, Olivia," I said simply, watching her closely. The panic flashed across her face for just a second before she smoothed it away. "I know what?" she replied, trying to play innocent. Her voice was steady, but her eyes betrayed her. She shifted her weight slightly, arms crossed defensively in front of her chest. "Yeah, I know about you and him," I said, my voice dripping with disdain as I looked her in the eyes. "Your boss, the one you've been sleeping with to climb the corporate ladder, I've known for months." The blood drained from her face. She opened her mouth, then closed it, struggling to find the right words. "Jonathan, it's not what you think." "Don't insult me," I snapped, cutting her off. "I heard your conversation tonight. I've seen the messages. The late nights, the business trips, it all adds up, and it doesn't matter how much you try to deny it. I don't care about the excuses." Her eyes widened, and I could see the cracks forming in her perfectly composed exterior. She had underestimated me, and now the realization was hitting her hard. I think I didn't prepare for this. I continued, my voice calm but venomous. "I've already seen the lawyers, moved the money, and ensured every asset we have is locked up in my name. So you're going to lose everything, Olivia?" She stared at me, stunned. Her mouth moved, but no sound came out. I could see her mind racing, scrambling for a way to salvage the situation, but there was none. She had played her hand, and she had lost. "You're finished?" I said, the finality of my words hanging in the air between us. "Our marriage, your career, everything you thought you were building, it's over." Her eyes flicked away, suddenly vulnerable. I could see the panic in them now, the realization that she had destroyed everything for a meaningless affair. The power she thought she had was slipping from her grasp, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. "I'll be filing for divorce in the morning," I said, turning on my heel, leaving her standing there, speechless and broken. "Enjoy the party, Olivia. It's your last one." As I walked away, the sounds of the party drifted back, a stark contrast to the destruction that had just unfolded in that quiet hallway. It was done. I was free. The hallway stretched behind me like a fading memory. With every step I took, I felt the weight of Olivia's betrayal lift from my shoulders, replaced by the cold satisfaction of watching her world crumble. I imagined her standing there, paralyzed, her mind whirling as she tried to comprehend the full scope of what I had done. There would be no more carefully crafted lies, no more manipulation, no more Olivia. As I re-entered the party, the lights seemed brighter, the laughter louder. I moved through the crowd unnoticed, an outsider to the merriment, but I didn't mind. I had already planned my exit from this life, and tonight was my last act. There was nothing left for me here. But just as I reached the bar to grab one last drink, I saw him, Olivia's boss, David, the man she had sold our marriage to for a few promotions and whispered promises of corporate glory. He stood at the far end of the room, surrounded by a cluster of executives, his smug face lit up by the glow of his success. He hadn't seen me yet, too caught up in his own world of power plays and office politics. But I wasn't leaving without a final confrontation. Drink in hand, I made my way across the room, feeling the tension rise with every step. When I was just a few feet away, David finally noticed me, his expression flickering from surprise to forced politeness. "Jonathan," he said, flashing that rehearsed corporate smile, "didn't expect to see you here. How are things?" I didn't smile back. I didn't even blink. I just stared at him, letting the silence stretch uncomfortably between us. The other executives sensed something was off and began to drift away, leaving us standing face to face. David's smile wavered, but he kept up the facade. "Oh, cut the bullshit, David," I said, my voice low but sharp. "I know about you and Olivia." His face remained neutral for a moment, but I caught the slight tightening of his jaw, the way his eyes flicked to the side, as if looking for an escape. "I don't know what you're talking about," he said smoothly, trying to brush me off. "Olivia's a valuable employee, nothing more." I took a step closer, lowering my voice so only he could hear. "Save the lies for someone who cares. I know exactly what you two have been doing behind my back, and I just wanted to make sure you understand what's coming." He shifted his weight, his arrogance faltering. "Jonathan, look." "I don't even try," I interrupted, my words cutting through his feigned sincerity. "I've already taken care of Olivia. She'll be out of both of our lives soon enough. But as for you," I paused, savoring the moment, watching the unease in his eyes grow. "You think you're untouchable," I continued, "but I've spent weeks gathering information, David. You've done more than just screw my wife. You've broken company policies, crossed lines that are going to get you fired. And when this all comes out, and you'll be lucky if you walk away with your reputation intact." For the first time, David's facade cracked. His smile vanished, replaced by a cold, calculating stare. "You don't know what you're getting into," he said, his voice dropping to a threatening whisper. "Oh, I know exactly what I'm getting into," I replied, unfazed by his attempt to intimidate me. "But the real question is, are you prepared for what's coming? Because by the time I'm done with you, you'll wish you had never met Olivia." With that, I turned and walked away, leaving him standing there, rattled but too proud to show it. I didn't need to see the aftermath. I had already set the wheels in motion. Olivia was finished, and now so was he. The party continued behind me as if nothing had happened, but for Olivia and David, everything had changed. I stepped out into the cool night air, breathing in deeply. The chill hit my face, a sharp reminder that a new chapter was beginning, one without the lies, without the betrayal. I walked toward my car, each step lighter than the last. It was over everything I had carried with me, all the anger, the hurt, the betrayal. I had let it go. Tomorrow I would file the divorce papers. Tomorrow I would begin again, alone but free. And that freedom, after everything, was the sweetest victory of all. The cold night air felt liberating as I crossed the parking lot. Each step was a release, the weight of the past months slowly dissolving into the darkness behind me. The party still raged on inside the building, but that world, the world where I was Olivia's husband, her naive fool, was over. As I approached my car, the adrenaline that had fueled me all night started to fade, replaced by a deep, bone-weary exhaustion. I leaned against the car door for a moment, closing my eyes, letting the night's events settle in. I thought about Olivia, how her face had fallen when I told her it was over. She had expected tears, anger, maybe a dramatic scene where I begged her to choose me over her boss. But she never imagined I'd come prepared, that I'd take control in a way she couldn't counter. Her whole world, built on deceit, was crumbling, and it was her own doing. I felt a fleeting sense of pity for her, but it disappeared as quickly as it came. She had made her choices. Now she had to live with them. My phone buzzed in my pocket, jolting me out of my thoughts. I pulled it out, half expecting it to be Olivia with a desperate plea or one last manipulative attempt to salvage something. But it wasn't her. It was an email notification from my lawyer. I opened it, skimming through the legal jargon. But it was all there, everything I'd set in motion. The transfer of assets, the formal separation papers, all waiting to be filed as soon as the sun came up. I had anticipated this moment for so long, meticulously planning each step like a chess match. And now it was unfolding exactly as I intended. To slip the phone back into my pocket and got into the car, the interior cold and quiet. As the engine roared to life, I sat for a moment, staring at my reflection in the rearview mirror. So I didn't quite recognize the man looking back at me, a man who had just dismantled his entire life in one night, not out of emotion or impulse, but out of necessity. So I had loved Olivia once deeply even, but now all that remained was a cold, calculated resolve to reclaim what was mine. The drive home was quiet, the streets nearly deserted at this late hour. I passed through familiar intersections, under streetlights that had witnessed years of our life together, late-night drives after dates, trips to family events, and mundane errands. Every corner of this city was marked with memories of us. But now they felt like someone else's life, scenes from a movie I had long since stopped caring about. As I pulled into the driveway of what was still our shared home, I paused, staring at the darkened windows. The house felt foreign now, like a shell of something that had once been alive but was now hollowed out. I had no intention of staying here much longer. I'd already planned to move out once the divorce was finalized, to leave this place behind with everything else connected to Olivia. She could keep the house. I didn't want it anymore. I got out of the car and unlocked the front door, stepping into the stillness. The ticking of the kitchen clock was the only sound that greeted me. I made my way upstairs, past the bedroom we had once shared, and into the guest room where I'd been sleeping for weeks. The bed was unmade, sheets tangled from restless nights spent planning my next move, but tonight was different. Tonight I would sleep knowing it was over. The lies, the betrayal, the constant weight of suspicion, it was all behind me now. I sat on the edge of the bed, running a hand through my hair, feeling the exhaustion sink deeper. Tomorrow, I would wake up to a new reality. A reality where Olivia was no longer a part of my life, where her betrayals no longer defined me. The divorce papers would be filed, and soon. This nightmare would be just a story I once lived through. As I lay back, staring at the ceiling, I felt something I hadn't expected: peace. Not joy, not triumph, but a quiet, calm acceptance that this was how things were meant to end. It was the kind of peace that comes when you faced the worst and walked away intact. But I closed my eyes, letting the stillness of the room envelop me. Tomorrow, a new chapter would begin. Morning light filtered through the blinds, soft and golden, stirring me awake. I blinked a few times, momentarily disoriented by the silence. So no sound of Olivia in the bathroom, no clatter of her heels on the hardwood floors. So I felt eerily still. It wasn't the kind of silence I had grown accustomed to during the weeks leading up to this, the tense quiet filled with the weight of unspoken arguments, the kind that presses down on you. This was different. This was the calm after the storm. I stretched in bed, the sheets cool against my skin, and let out a deep breath. Today was the day it would all be finalized. I had waited for this moment for months, and now that it was here, I felt an odd mixture of relief and detachment. The emotions I expected, bitterness, anger, maybe even a lingering sadness, weren't there. So what replaced them was a feeling of closure, like the final puzzle piece had clicked into place. I had survived this. Pulling myself out of bed, I padded over to the window and looked out at the front yard, watching the world begin to stir. Neighbors walking their dogs, the newspaper delivery truck making its rounds. Life was moving on, as it always does, indifferent to the personal catastrophes happening behind closed doors. It was a strange realization, knowing that while my world had imploded, everyone else's kept spinning. But maybe that's what I needed, a reminder that life goes on. I got dressed, slipping into a crisp shirt and a pair of jeans. Nothing too formal today, didn't feel like a day for formality. I wasn't meeting with Olivia, wasn't interested in hearing her apologies or her attempts to explain why she had destroyed everything we had. There were no more explanations needed. Instead, I was meeting my lawyer, finalizing the papers and cutting the last thread that tied me to her. As I drove to my lawyer's office, I found myself replaying the events of last night. So look on Olivia's face, the stunned silence when she realized I had beaten her at her own game. She had always been so sure of herself, always believed she was the smartest person in the room. So she hadn't anticipated me waking up to her betrayal. She never expected I would be the one to walk away first. So by the time I pulled into the office parking lot, a sense of finality had settled over me. So was it the end of the marriage, the end of everything? I met my lawyer, a sharp, no-nonsense woman who had helped me navigate the complexities of separating our assets and ensuring Olivia wouldn't walk away with a single penny more than she deserved. Till the papers were waiting for me on her desk, neatly arranged, the ink barely dry. I signed them without hesitation, the pen ling across the page as if it was just another routine task, like paying a bill or renewing my driver's license. But I knew this was more than that. This was my freedom, my clean break from a woman who had shattered my trust in the most brutal way possible. As I handed the signed documents back, my lawyer looked at me, a question in her eyes. "Are you sure you're ready for this, Jonathan? It's not too late to change your mind." I smiled, shaking my head. "I've never been more ready for anything in my life." She nodded, her expression softening. "All right then, I'll have these filed by the end of the day. Congratulations, Jonathan, you're free." Free. The word echoed in my mind as I left the office, stepping out into the bright midday sun. For the first time in months, the air felt lighter, the weight on my shoulders gone. The city seemed more alive, more vibrant than it had in years. I walked back to my car with a strange sense of calm, as if I had emerged from a long, dark tunnel and finally stepped into the light. I drove aimlessly for a while, not ready to go back to the house just yet. Instead, I found myself heading toward the beach. It was a place Olivia and I had once gone to often, before the lies, before everything fell apart. It's back when we were still us, but now it felt like mine again. I parked by the shore and walked out onto the sand, letting the cool ocean breeze wash over me. So waves rolled in and out, their rhythm steady and unchanging, a reminder that life moves forward no matter what. I sat down on a piece of driftwood, watching the water glisten under the afternoon sun. For the first time in what felt like forever, I allowed myself to think about the future. There would be challenges ahead there, always, but now they were mine to face on my own terms. I no longer had to second-guess everything, no longer had to worry about the lies Olivia might be spinning behind my back. I could start over, rebuild my life the way I wanted it, and that realization brought a peace I hadn't expected. I stayed there for hours, watching the sky change from blue to orange to deep purple as the sun sank below the horizon. When I finally stood up and dusted the sand from my jeans, I knew I was ready. Ready to leave the past behind, ready to embrace whatever came next. As I walked back to my car, I realized something. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't bitter. Olivia's betrayal had cut deep, but it hadn't destroyed me. I was still standing. I was still here. And that was enough. The drive home felt different this time. The streets, the city, everything felt new again. As I pulled into the driveway, I knew that whatever came next, I would face it head on. Alone, yes, but free. And in that freedom, I had found my strength again. So I stepped out of the car, looked up at the house one last time, and smiled. It was time to move on.